Mike, if you'll do us a favor, don't block that rain, okay? We need that rain coming up from New Orleans, okay? Don't put a block up there, Mike. Let us have some of that, okay?
Well, it'll be a whiff on my part. But, yeah, we're starting to get it today. First time. It's almost been 3 weeks.
Same
so
with us.
we got some, and it's actually, as we talking, it's we had a good little rain earlier this afternoon, but it's a little drizzle now. So, yeah, fixing to get it, which means if you're in the grass cutting business, that it keeps you rolling.
Absolutely. And I know there's probably some guys that are cutting grass like praying for this rain because it's their business. I mowed my dust a couple of days ago. That's what I told the audience. I was out mowing my dust because there's no grass. It's just dust right now. Mike, when you see players that do holdouts, I was just reading Redskins star left tackle demands trade and vows that he will not play for the Washington Redskins in 2019. His name is Trent Williams, pretty much saying that he's not going to play. When you see stories like this from an NFL guy, what kind of goes through your mind, all these different holdouts?
Well, because the market changes so much for players, I mean, you can sign the biggest contract, given to, say, what Trent has played as a left tackle 2 years ago, and today you might be 13th on the list. So you sort of looking around and saying, kind of what happened here. And so for Trent, I think he's understands this is his last big deal at his age. He's not going to get another huge deal. And so you can threaten a lot of different things, but the Redskins aren't trading Trent Williams. I mean, those type left tackles are difficult to find, especially in the league, which is built upon having a star quarterback and putting that star quarterback on his back. So you better have a guy that can pass protect. So, you can say a lot of different things. And I've talked to a couple players throughout the years that have told me, what I hate? Training camp. So if I miss the first week, 10 days, and come in, so what? Ricky Jackson, man, goes down one of the all-time greats with the Saints and NFL Hall of Famer. He had one of the great lines about practice. He said, "Practice is for the unskilled," which is a great line by Ricky. And Pete Jenkins, who's done some work certainly at LSU, coached at Alabama, has worked with the Alabama defensive lineman. He puts a premium on that, especially for young players, quality practice. Like you said, practice just to practice is useless, but practice to get better is a different thing. And, for Trent, come on, he's skilled labor. He understands it. So, just a little bargaining tool, trying to get a little bit more extra money, understanding that, at his age, his part of his career, trying to get as much as he can. It is a business.
Mike, Jerry Jeudy, 6'1", 192,
Yep.
68 receptions, 14 touchdowns, 1,315 yards last year. What's the ceiling for him in next year's NFL draft?
He could vie to be the top overall pick. I mean, from a rating standpoint, now receivers don't normally go that high. Julio, he's an exception to the rule. Calvin Johnson, exception to the rule. It's quarterback oriented today, and you see it so much. At this time a year ago, somebody would have told you Kyler Murray would be the first pick in the draft. You'd say, you got to be kidding. But it is what it is, and you see this group with Tua, with Herbert, Jake Fromm, that they're going to get most likely be the top three picks. But Jeudy could actually, on some boards, be the top-rated player. Phenomenal athlete, great eye-hand coordination, catches the ball so smoothly. It's his run-after-catch skills, his ability to set you up and get separation downfield. He's at another level as far as that's concerned. Now, he's not a huge wideout in, say, like what Julio was and what Megatron was when they came out. But, man, he is so smooth as a player. And to get into and out of those cuts and breaks his ability to make a catch outside his body zone is phenomenal. So he most likely will be a top 5 or 6 pick, in next year's draft. I mean, he's that good. And it's rare that I could say that about a wide receiver. It's a rarity when you have a guy that you're talking about at that position that is going to be considered in the top 5 or 6.
Mike, let me go to Raekwon Davis. When you look at Raekwon Davis, and I think it was smart for him to decide to come back.
Yep.
What does he need to do in 2019 to be that first round pick?
One of the things I saw with Raekwon was he had difficulties at times getting off of blocks, and so better use of his arms and hands. I think, a lot of times a player of that size and athletic ability, you're outpowering or out-athleticing most guys. And there comes a point where they sort of know what you're going to do. So you have to counter move. And I think that's the thing. I talked to Pete Jenkins about him, and he told me, man, Mike, a lot of guys built like him, that type of size. And he's, for that frame, as Pete told me, he sort of plays low to the ground. He's not a big upright guy. And it's just his ability to get off a block a little bit quicker. And I think that that's something he's been able to work on. And it's the other thing with him that I think with all defensive linemen, and I hear it so often, is their lower body power. And you've got different people that will that's where the engine starts. That's where you're drawing your power surge from, is that lower body. And so I think the two things with Raekwon to watch for is how well he's able to use his arms and hands better to get off of a block, and also his ability to get off the snap a little bit quicker because he is stronger in the lower body. And, a lot of guys, they spend a lot of the off season working on, that upper body strength, and they look almost like male models. And that's great and fine. But to get your game to another level, I think it's all about lower body strength. And I think that's something that he's worked on, along with also using his arms and hands better. And, man, he's got one heck of a coach there that can help him out on that.
Mike, who's the best linebacker you've ever seen in the SEC?
Jeez. Oh, that's a good question. I'd have to go with Derek Thomas. I mean, he was a signature player following a signature player. Biscuit was there before him, and then he comes in, and he was at times almost unblockable as an edge player. And so he certainly would get the nod from me. You just look at his ability to change a game and constant pressure. There weren't a lot of guys that could do it like what Derek could. He was special. As an inside player, I'd go with Patrick Willis. In my time frame, Patrick was unbelievable at Ole Miss, on some bad Ole Miss teams too. They weren't winning any championships or anything, but man, he sort of tilted the field as a run stuffer, as a guy that could make plays sideline to sideline. And Ogeron was there then. Don't forget. I think this is like his third practice, and he said, man, I got a guy here. He could have started and been a star at SC. I said, who are you talking about? He said, he didn't start as a freshman. He said, it's Patrick Willis. He said, Mike, he's one of a kind. And he said, it's just not his ability to play the run, but how well he could drop back in coverage. He said, in today's game, you've got to have that ability to cover. And so as an edge guy, no question, it's Derek Thomas. And, man, I haven't seen an inside linebacker that could do what Patrick Willis could. He was just a phenomenal player.
Well, we had Coach Bill Curry, I think, last week, and one of the things we're talking about with Derek Thomas is he said he was by far, and he had some pretty good stops as assistant coach, played in the NFL, coached in the NFL. He said he was the best player he's ever coached by far. He says,
I can say, I remember when LSU would play Alabama, and the look on the coach's face about, listen, we got to do something to slow him down. It wasn't stopping him. It was about slowing him down. And it was his motor, his intensity, his focus. He was so athletic, yes, but it's the intangibles with Derek, and that he was never satisfied. Now, again, it's sort of like business and sports. You can look at it the same. People who are great at what they do, they're never satisfied. And Derek was never satisfied with what he did. I mean, he always thought he could do better. But from an SEC outside standpoint, man, it's over 30 years for me. Derek Thomas is, when you ask that question, that was an easy answer for me. Inside guys, there've been a few of them that have come and gone, but and Willis would get the nod from me in that time frame. But man, Derek was just a special football player.
Mike, when you see this College Football Hall of Fame, you tell me, you've lived in the South all these number of years. They were in South Bend. Did they have a northern bias?
I don't think there's any question about it. When you look at the names that are on the list this year, and you just say, how in the world could some of those guys not be in there already?
Sure.
And you just sort of shake your head a little bit. So, I think a lot of times, I think that'll change, though, Ryan. I do think the impact of the SEC Network, the coverage of SEC that you do, what we do here at WWL, and being able to throw it out, and also, other stations too, certainly, but that you get a better gig on it. That you get people out west or out in the Northeast, they get a better vision of a player because you're on as a guest with them and you're able to explain, or they can listen to stuff online today. So I think that's certainly changing. But at one time, I think that was a heavy Northeast, Midwest bias to it. And a lot of it having to do with the fact that, you look back 50s, 60s, 70s, even in the early 70s, I think the integration of the SEC was a big reason why I think for some northern voters, and some of them have told me, I'm not gonna put a guy from the SEC in there. I'm just not. And my thing is, why? That guy had nothing to do with the rules that were in the SEC at that time. They had nothing to do with it. That was laws and bylaws, so to speak, being run by the presidents of the school and basically a lot of times the governors of the state. So why would you be prejudiced against that guy? He had nothing to do with what was happening out on the field and who was being recruited. But I hear that a lot from a lot of older voters that and some of them have walked away from it and do admit that they took a lot of bias in that and wouldn't if it was close, would not vote the Southern player in. Well, that's sad, but it is true.
Well, and that's what I look at. Look at Tennessee. They've got 28 players, and really they're in the top 5. They're the only Southern team in the top 8, 9. There's one team from the South in the top 9 with players inducted in the College Football Hall of Fame. Notre Dame with 47, Michigan 32, USC out on the West Coast 44, Ohio State, Yale, Army, Princeton. Alabama's a rich tradition. They've only got 20 players in the College Football Hall of Fame. Only 20.
See, that's where, Ryan, we all know better. You really know better than that number should be double the amount. What was shocking, because I didn't realize it until I got sent the thing with it. They said Kevin Falk wasn't on it.
I saw
in there yet.
I saw it too. It went. I was like, "Are you kidding me?"
Kevin Falk, when he left LSU, was the all-time all-purpose yardage leader. It took Tebow to beat him out in that category. And again, you sort of shake your head. I know with Glenn Dorsey, it's a little bit different because he just sort of has winded down his NFL career, but just how dominant a player he was at LSU as an inside player. Man, look at that time frame. Man, Glenn was a man out on that field. as an SEC player. I think of a guy that doesn't live that far from me and is not in and has been nominated but not into the later ballots is Ronnie Estee, who was an All-SEC player twice, All-American. And Archie's told me numerous times the best defensive player I went up against was Ronnie. It was Crockett. He's got his name on, he's in the LSU Hall of Fame. He's got his name in the Edmonton Hall of Fame. I think I don't know how many Hall of Fames he's in, but he's not into college football, which is just shocking to me. But again, I think for many of the Northern Midwestern voters, they took care of their own. They weren't worried about Southern football.
I thought they were unbiased members of the media. I thought they were unbiased members of the media. I thought that's what they. No. I'm just teasing with you, Mike. I'm just aggravating.
Come on, we all know that, Brian. That's bias and the whole deal with it. And for thinking about some of the players that are in today, I look at it in comparison to the list I saw. I'm like, you can't compare this. But again, in talking to veteran guys who had done it before, they were pretty out front about why they didn't vote for SEC players. And again, why are you blaming them for something they had nothing to do with? Zero. So you taking it out on them. And I do think that, especially in the 60s and into the early 70s, I think it started to change mid-70s into the 80s. And certainly I think people started to see how good Alabama was with Coach Bryant. And then Herschel hit. I think it started to change a little bit that, man, SEC football is pretty good. But I think, even the championships Alabama won, they were voting on this before the bowl games and everything else. And, that's how USC Notre Dame got them. And it's still probably one of the highest ranked New Year's Eve events in the history of television. Alabama, Notre Dame for the first time in the Sugar Bowl.
Well, and
Parsegian up against Bryant, and that to me was such a huge thing because of the fact that now you had this on the grandest of stage. And I do remember it was a New Year's Eve game, night game. It had rained here. It was a hot day. A front pass. It got bitter cold during that football game. And my old buddy Mike Riley, who was on that team and later became a head coach in the NFL, he recalls the events that sort of led to the end and Notre Dame getting that big first down when Alabama had them backed up. Just Coach Bryant's expression on the sidelines when they hit the pass to McAfee or Weber for the first down. So it was, but that did put SEC football on a major stage. I know, Archie, when he played against Alabama, that was a night game. It was a regular season game. But I think that this really put it, because now you're in the TV era where everybody's getting to see it. And they were going up against, Notre Dame. And I can't recall anybody of that age not remembering watching that game.
Hey, Mike, I'll leave you with this. We had Chris Samuels on yesterday, and he's up on a College Football Hall of Fame ballot as well as E.J. Jr. But Chris Samuels, we were talking about stats, and, it's hard to kind of measure offensive linemen. But in 2 consecutive years, 98, 99, he did not allow one quarterback hurry or a sack in 2 consecutive years at left tackle.
He was a man out on that field. And you think about, Alabama's looked at in a lot of quarters as a defensive-oriented team. But you think about 2 players, and then you throw Chris in. John Hanna, Dwight Stevenson, Chris Samuels. Give me 5/5 of that line. Because, I'm not old enough to remember the name of the statement of playing at Alabama other than say on the highlight reel. I do remember John. And man, he was a man out on that field. And, then Dwight Stevenson was an unbelievable player. And you see Chris Samuels, just what type of dominant tackle he was, and settled that also in the NFL. He was really good there also.
100%, 100%. Hey, Mike, it's always great to be able to talk to you. It's WWL AM and FM there in New Orleans. Historic call letters, WWL AM and FM. Mike Detillier, SEC college football analyst, NFL draft evaluator, talent evaluator. Mike, it's always great to be able to catch up. I hope you have a great week, sir.
Thank you, Ryan. Appreciate it, buddy.